Can you believe it? It's the end of the USFL season, but that doesn't mean our work is done. Folks, welcome on into another edition of the USFL podcast. Zach Heilman bringing you around in for this latest edition, hosting, as I got my good buddy and pal over down in Houston, Texas, the ref himself, rooting on his gamblers, getting a good feeling win this week.
Felt real good, I'll tell you what, man.
It upset.
Oof. And I mean, you know what? Trap game, whatever you want to call it, resting for the playoffs. A win's a win. We're out of that bottom echelon, which, as we'll talk about later, the two teams in that bottom tier right now, they're only one will still have one win after the end of this weekend, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm excited, Zach. I can't believe it. We're at the end of the season. Like, wow. Holy smokes. Wow. It feels like we just started the show, let alone the season. Now we're at the end. We're heading into the playoffs. Everything's kind of capped off, ready to go. And I thought it was going to be a slow news week, but you know what? Surprisingly, we got some good nuggets to talk about. So I'm excited about that. But before we do, I'm sure we have a couple things that we want to go over here.
Yeah, yes, we do. Plenty to discuss this week, but plenty, of course, as we always have, to drop in before we get to all the fancy goodies in store for the rest of your show. First things first, if you're tuning in for the first time, you haven't checked out our social media, what are you waiting for? Follow us along at USFL Podcast on all your platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. By the way, head on over to that button on the side of this video if you're watching, or if you're listening, head on over to YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and then click the bell because it builds morale. Good Lord, I will never forget that phrase for the rest of my life. And seriously, I'm like I said, Stefan, it's 2 shows now that say it. Jim's got it on the arena one I do. Jim's saying it every time. He has adopted the phrase. He thanks you tenfold for bringing the bell into the conversation. But click the bell, guys. It builds morale. Feels good, and you get updates from us every time we drop a new video, which hint we're looking into. We see your comments. We're looking into trying to get a little more content going in to next year. The off season for us is coming up too, so we're going to be reevaluating our own things, talking about the league in its off season phase. Crazy to think about. Things we'll be talking about kind of in this show, but seriously, follow us on social, and click the bell as well to follow us for videos in the off season and throughout the rest of this year too. Be sure, by the way, to follow along on social media because you want to be able to find the details on summer stock. Last time I said spring stock, so this is me correcting myself. Summer stock, people, it's coming up for the championship game. So nice, we're doing it twice. And we're doing it with 2 days as well. We're doubling up the fun this time around. So July 2nd is really when all the party begins. What are we doing? We're going to tour the Hall of Fame. You're going to be in Canton, Ohio, back near Tom Benson Stadium. You know what's right behind Tom Benson Stadium, or just to the side of it? The mecca of all professional football, the Hall of Fame itself. We're going to be doing a tour. We invite you guys to come along. Otherwise, us two, we're definitely going. We're at least going ourselves. Oh, yeah. Be free to come along for the fun. We'll be going to the Hall of Fame, checking out some of that new USFL memorabilia, some of the OG stuff that's in there, other various things, XFL gears in there too. I mean, it's not just the NFL, people. There's a lot of alternative leagues that get represented in the Hall of Fame. At least last time I was there. It's been over a decade. Mm-hmm. So, things have changed, I can imagine, very much so. And if you have a star of yours, for sure, that's in there, they haven't seen before, or they want to see their bust, come with us. That whole area is great too. I'm saying there's a lot to think about for July 2nd. July 3rd, though, is then the big shebang. We got plenty going on. We got the tailgate. We're going to be going for 4 hours. Right now, it's tentatively 12 Eastern, or at least, 12 Eastern to about 4 is what we're doing for this one. It's what we did last time. We're going to do it again. Right now, as long as weather permits, we are going to do the tailgating lot that we want to do the first time. Getting that organized, we should have that ready by the time week 10 is over, really before the playoffs start next week. We're going to have that out there. We'll let you know where we're going to be, and we'll give you more details, and for who's coming along too. We'll be doing those drops soon. We got some good guests that you will recognize. Again, we're doing these live tailgates. We got to get some people involved here. So summer stock's going to be great. So nice. We're doing it twice, July 2nd and 3rd. Be sure to hop out there if you like. Also, by the way, since it is playoffs, since it is kind of a special time that we're going to be doing a lot to organize for this too, and we're trying to experiment for next year, we're going to be doing a live stream before summer stock. This time, Sunday, the 25th, we're going to be doing a live stream that is going to be, well, for the most part, jumping on our next episode that we're going to be having of the show. So if you want to hop on there, talk to us about, all kinds of USFL nuggets. We're going to be talking about the championship. You can, of course, participate live. We always have great conversations with those in the chat. So feel free. And if you're curious about maybe the off season or things that you're thinking about with the off season that you want to discuss, that's a great time to do it. We'll be doing a live stream though. Should be setting that up soon after this show drops on Friday, or if you're watching right now, we'll hopefully have a link to that setup is what we're saying that should be coming up here. And by the way, last bit of pieces here, and this is YouTube related as well as giveaway related. First thing, 5K giveaway. We're still doing that. When we hit that 5K mark of subscribers, you hit the bell, it builds morale, and you also hit the sub mark. We're giving away a jersey. Still holding that one. We're definitely going to do it. Once we hit 5K, though, someone's getting that jersey. Someone also right now that I'm going to announce it is getting 2 tickets to the championship game. We announced a few weeks ago we're going to give away a pair of tickets to the championship. Our time is now to do that. So Jeff Wake, spelled W-A-C-K. You made a comment a few weeks back. You put yourself into our subscriber pool. You, sir, will be getting 2 tickets to that July 3rd championship game. Look, comment down below or hit us up on social, on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, whatever way you want. Hit up our channel. We'll get you set up with those tickets. Congratulations, sir. You're going to Canton, Ohio on July 3rd. I think it's about it.
Yeah.
I think that covers everything.
Well, hopefully we get to see him at Summer Stock as well. Maybe both days, maybe one day. But yeah, we're going to get it set up. One thing, we've talked about this in the past with the show. Things have just seemed to magically line up for us. So not only are we going live on the 25th, that's our 25th episode. That's a milestone marker leading into the championship. And I mean, what a better way to go live. We're going to basically do back-to-back live streams. Episode 25 on the 25th, and then Sunday, July 3rd, for Summer Stock. So it's a great way for the fans to get engaged online. And then at least in Summer Stock's case, like you said, so nice we're doing it twice. I can't wait to hear from the fans online and in person. Come get a hot dog. Even if you hate us, get signed up. But
stop on by.
Man, I'm getting amped. Like I said, going into this week, I thought, hey, you know what? It's going to be a slow news week. The playoff picture's kind of sealed up. We know where everybody's going. We know who's traveling. We know who's staying home. But boy, you know what? The XFL keeps delivering. First topic up here, Zach. Sorry to steal the thunder.
Oh, please.
2022 All-USFL Team. You know what? Maybe it just went over my head. Maybe I didn't even think about it. I don't know what it is, but I didn't expect to see it. But I'm glad to see it. It's just one of those extra things. A little cherry on the top. Like I said, thought it was going to be a slow news week. No, we get some good recognition. And you know what? There's probably some people that they could have brought in here, and we could discuss that. But overall, it's hard to not relate with this list. I think everybody here has definitely proved themselves. I just wish there was maybe a couple more spots to edge a couple people in. But initial thoughts, man.
Yeah, I mean, you think you'd have or you think you could possibly debate next year's second team. Honestly, here's the first deal with the public response to this. We're so used to a spring league not making it to the end of the season that I don't think anyone thinks about this stuff
right
until it happens. So like even me, like I know I said I said to some people I'm not shocked, but then again I stopped and after that I posted that, I rethought and I went, no, actually I kind of am, because I'm not used to seeing this for non-NFL leagues, because generally as of late they just don't get to the end for one reason or another. That's how I'll leave that. You can interpret that how it is with a little bit of research. But congrats to everyone who's gotten these awards. And honestly, really for the most part, I think they did a really fine job selecting who are really the faces, the stars of the USFL. There's a few that I think I'm with you. Either it could be a second team, or possibly you could do like a 1A, 1B type of scenario. And let's list off. Let's go section by section, Sally. So they did all 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams. We'll go with offense first. Kick things right off. QB selection: Kyle Sloter. 2 running backs were Darius Victor and Reggie Corbin, the only Panther on that list. So shout out to him. good for him, man. He made an impact right out of the gate when he got healthy. You also got receivers Victor Bolden and Cavante Turpin, both extra dynamic players in very many facets as the receiving core. Tight end Sal Cannella, and that was really a competitive section there. You have guys like Bug Howard, Chan O'Grady that made impacts this season. Sal, I think, was just a bit more consistent in that offense, was really kind of leading the way in some of the statistical categories. But, man, he had a hell of a season. And, of course, the linemen, I'm not shocked that the majority are made up by Generals offensive linemen because, I mean, you got Terry Poole, who's at tackle, Garrett McGinn, who is also going to be at the guard. For the other sections, for the if I'm going left to right, they kind of just list as general position, so bear with me. The two guards, at least, you have Garrett McGinn, you have Cameron Hunt, who's with the Stallions, Terry Poole with the Generals, who's going to be with the first tackle. The second tackle is one of two selections for the Bandits, Jerron Jones, and then Jared Thomas is going to be in the middle. Funny enough, and much I hate it, good end of that week for Jerron Jones, because he had when we talk later, he actually kind of had an unfortunate run-ins on the field. At least was a little hot-headed for reasons.
Right.
But good. I'm glad he gets at least something to go and take home with. Gets recognized for how well he's been playing this year. I'll tell you, like I said, to me, the two spots, tight end, I think you could have had like Bug Howard or Shannon O'Grady. I'll tell you who else. Neither one of the New Orleans receiving core members, whether it's Johnny Dixon or Jonathan Adams, that to me, I think could have made it. Neither one of them made it, but I think it's an overall body of work they're taking.
Right.
And both of them have had kind of like ups and downs depending on how Kyle was every week. Who do you see on this? You're like, man, maybe they could have swapped them out. Maybe it was close. A second team easily.
I think this is going to be a controversial statement here, especially for maybe possibly one of our guests at Summer Stock.
Okay.
I mean, the QB spot is a tough one to fill, right? But I look at Kyle Sloter as he has had ups and downs all season.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if there's a quarterback in the league that hasn't. Some have been due to injury. I would argue, had DeAndre Johnson been able to play every game this season, maybe he takes that spot. I can't fault it because, I mean, Sloter is, one, the fans love him online, right? People love the breakers. And when he's playing good, he's playing great. So I can't fault that, right? You mentioned a great point with the tight end. That's another position where there's probably like three guys that could have fit into that role without an argument. But overall, I mean, I'm not mad at the list. I like to see it. It's like I said, just a nice little cherry on top, something I didn't expect. Honestly, we were going into this recording because we record on Thursdays. We really didn't even know this until the night prior, Wednesday night. And you know what? The USFL went to their classic move. They went to old school with the night before tease. We haven't seen one of those in a while.
Yep.
It's been a while. And you know what? I'm just amazed it wasn't on the Herd. It's been a while since we talked about the Herd, Zach.
Jeez, yeah.
We got to cap off this season right. That's one thing. Please, Colin Cowherd, if you weren't planning on going to the USFL Championship, you better book your ticket now. I mean, for crying out loud, he's always talking about Ohio and the Browns and Mayfield, at least when he was there. Come on down. Sign you up because I got to get a picture with that guy. I might dress as Colin Cowherd for Halloween coming up this next year.
Because Colin Cowherd?
I'm telling you, sign him up. I got to credit where credit's due, right? He gave the USFL some nice publicity, a nice little push before the season started. So you know what? As much as he gets hate online, I never watched an episode where I said, oh, this is horrible. So man, now I'm going down a whole path here.
That whole, you're talking like, I know Colin Cowherd, the Herd's been covering, they've gotten the big three shows on Fox to cover. Undisputed, I think, is the one that really, they get the most traffic. Speak for Yourself's had some moments too. But I don't know, Undisputed and the Herd kind of stand out as the ones that really, they dive in every week, whether you like their takes or not. Right. They're covering the league and getting them exposure online. Kyle, the QB one I think is fascinating because Kyle Sloter, the last few weeks has not put up what I would say are performances that people go, yeah, that's my all USFL guy. Now, injuries partially play into that. He's been having a nasty groin injury as well as a few other nicks and bruises across all over his body to where it's adding up. And I kind of wonder what they do with week 10 when we get into that with nothing to play for now. So we'll see. And we'll discuss that in a second. But, the other ones that were brought up to me, I heard, Case Cookus was main one. So I had one or two brought up Jordan Ta'amu as an option as well. Even Jamar Smith got thrown around a little bit. Here's my thing with these. So like Cookus, I think the Cookus is the closest one that I would have switched out. The only thing, and this is the only reason I can think why they went Kyle instead of Case. Case, if we're talking a full season's work, and this isn't really Case's faulting. I mean, Brian Scott went out and he was holding the job down. Honestly, one could argue Brian was on a path to be all USFL if he doesn't go down.
Right.
Case stepped in. He got decent performances, and it was at the tail end of the season he started hitting late. And generally, that's voting how it goes. But I think this voting was very much a full season body of work or as close to it. And Kyle, for the most part, had a few more instances where I think it was high profile for smooth for the most part. Now I could be wrong. I would say I ain't mad if you put Case in there. If that was your choice, he'd be to me my second team. Ta'amu has the numbers, but no high profile wins. That's what when you talk all league. You also want to have. It's not just stats as well. It's do you have those marquee moments too? Are you delivering when it's crunch time? Just not all there,
right?
And that's Jordan's downfall. And last week would have been that chance, I think, to say, okay, maybe you can make a push there. And when we talk with recap, didn't happen.
No.
Overall, tight end and QB really were the main ones. Receivers, possibly. Overall, this kind of matches up what I expect. Like what I would think are, if I'm picking the cream of the crop offensively, it's there.
Right.
This works. It's
right,
good.
Right.
It's very good. Defensively, I also think not too many I could swap out. I'll be frank. This is your section.
Right. So
easily your section.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we got the America's team, if you will. So starting out, defensive end Chris Odom, defensive tackle from the Breakers. Reggie Howard Jr.
No, Reggie Howard. There you go.
Ugh, man,
there's too many Howards.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I'm reading it too, so I don't even know what happened there. But
former Bandit too.
Yeah.
I've seen some people go, "Oh, he's a breaker."
Right. So, but again, generals coming up strong in all of these lists here. Toby Johnson, defensive tackle, defensive end for the Breakers, Devin Bellamy. Now, this is how we had originally learned that the All-USFL team was even going to be a thing, right? He went on social media, and interestingly enough, so it sounded like, at least the way I read it, his post, it sounded like the players voted on some of this, or at least had a certain say. He said something along the lines of, it was a nice accomplishment, but having his peers vote on it made it even
it feels that much more special because you live with these guys for at least part of the season, and you're in the same city the whole year. You're interacting with them at the same stadium the whole year in games, so they would know.
Right.
The players know. Real recognizes real.
Oh, sure. Linebackers, though, and some solid ones right here. So first off, for the Stallions, DeMarcus Gates, who's been pretty solid all year. Donald Payne, though, for the Gamblers, him and Chris Odom, if they didn't make this list, this list would be a farce. I would just say that right off the top. But, they had to be there. And there's another one that we'll get to here in a minute. But before we do, ending off the linebackers, Gerard Fernandez for the Breakers, another team who had a good amount of players on all these lists. And again, well earned, right? Cornerbacks, we have Channing Stribling. And then this is the other guy I was talking about here, Will Likely, which both of them, Stribling, the last couple weeks, one in that big game where they blew out the Panthers. Was it the Panthers? No, geez, now my mind's gone.
Yeah, they blew out the Panthers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. He came up big in that, and then he might be partially the reason they won this week, and we'll get to that. But the safeties, Shalom Luani and Bryce. Oh my good. This one's too small. Sorry, guys. We have it shrunk. Tornadin.
Bryce Tornadin.
Thank you. So for the Generals and the Maulers, respectively. I don't know if it's hard to replace anybody on this list. I think this one is pretty solid as far as like where we made some comparisons to the offense. I'm sure there's some other guys that could slip in here, but like I said, the three that I would have expected, and maybe I'm partial here, but as a Gamblers fan, would be Odom, Payne, and Likely, and they're all here. Anybody that you think's missing? There's one that comes to my head, and I'm curious your thoughts.
Well, I know Adam Rodriguez came on late. That would have been one maybe. I think Davin Bellamy fits in this slot more just because we're talking again. I think a lot of this was judged on a full body season of work. Rodriguez came on hot at the end. It's part of the reason why the Stars are currently on the win streak that they are. And he would be an easy second team at the defensive end spot or an outside linebacker, depending on where they fully have him lining up. Otherwise, I mean, the only other one I would have maybe considered, because I like the secondary overall, I'm a fan. Now, I think it would be hard to have two of the same team's cornerbacks on this choice. I like Will Likely's made some impact plays, so it's definitely one I would say you have to have him in there. I've been like, some people might think I'm a homer, or I'm just like infatuated with this guy, but Amani Dennis all years impressed me. So, I could also have made the case that over his overall play, you could maybe even argue that Will Likely and him might have had a bit of a debate. But I mean, Likely's had so many marquee moments. It's just that, Houston, as you can tell, very much a defensive-minded roster, not many offensive pieces to speak of on the opposite side. Early on, I mean, I thought like Mark Thompson, running backs wise, that was going to get. He faded off. Unfortunately, I think teams were catching on and they started keying in on that. But early on, first half of the year, he was in that conversation at that point.
Well, what's interesting too is I remember about halfway through the season, I believe it was the Fox broadcast, and I can't remember if it was on Fox or FS1, so I can't recall which broadcast team it was, but they were dogging the Gamblers defense hard. They were talking about it being one of the worst defenses in the league. And boy, oh boy, did they turn that around. And I mean, to me, maybe it was the numbers. If you looked at the raw numbers, maybe they didn't come out on top, but I never felt like they had a bad defense. There were some problems in the first and the second half, but that was kind of across the board in certain areas, if you will. Now there is one guy here, and I really think it comes down to what you've mentioned a couple times here, is this comes down to the full season's work. But it is surprising not to see someone like Scooby Wright, Shark Dog, on this list just for the name factor alone.
You're not the only one.
Right.
That is another one that someone brought up. But again, he is very much that talented position. And I bet he makes a good pitch to be in that linebacking core. Although with him and Donald Payne kind of playing the same spot, kind of hard. It'd be a tough contest. One of them would lose out and you'd be upset.
Right.
The other not make it. Because I mean, Payne, over 100 tackles this year. He's been a monster and has been going like crazy when it comes to scanning the field. So it would have been a hard conversation. That's one of those, it's like you stack up a good position like that. And again, his injuries that he had that knocked him out for the middle part of the season. I get it. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, but he's such a recognizable name. It's like, yeah, but still it's, overall body of work to me is what I'm noticing as the pattern here.
Right.
Longer longevity, full season's length of impact. That's what it is. I know some people could argue, like, show him, like, for example, people like the defense. I love all these picks. Funny, Toby Johnson, he was looking for a picture of himself recently on Twitter, and was like, where can I find it? It's like, you know what? You got a picture now. You're on the all defensive team, and you made an impact. You've made impacts as of late for the Generals. Congrats to you on that. And hey, all teams have representation in this list.
Right. Yeah.
Because the Pittsburgh Maulers, like I said, Bryce Tornadin is the lone Mauler representing on this all-USFL team. So congrats to them. Congrats to, their stars across the board. So defensively, kudos to all of you. And finally, you end up with special teams. Now, two of these guys, two of them are essentially repeats, but we got to highlight them because all-purpose yards, impact players across the board in these positions, you got to mention Victor Bolden, all-purpose yards leader in the league. Of course, he's going to be on there for special teams. You couldn't. Kavontae Turpin, touchdown return last week, or punt return last week that he had, as well as Maurice Alexander. All three of them have been stellar return men at this point in the season or have made impacts on the special for that unit in terms of locking it down. And then if we're talking the guys with the legs, Brandon Wright, who absolutely had a hell of a game punter-wise last week, and I'm talking as a pure punter. We're not talking throwing touchdowns or anything like Duffy. We're talking pure punting skill. He's been solid. And Brandon Aubrey, I mean, kudos. That one, he's been, again, this is not only longevity, but he's been consistently good all season. Weird that the trend's been reversed, though. Last few weeks, kickers have just started not hitting kicks. I don't understand it.
Well, it's weird because it takes my theory away. Remember, my theory was maybe it was something to do with Legion Field. But then we saw problems again last week when they're back at protective. So it negated my whole theory instantly. But, it is what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's just difference in atmosphere. Maybe the heat is changing how the ball flies through the air. Maybe there's different wind. Who knows? But something changed, it feels like.
As long as they ain't the chip, which I don't. That, by the way, they wouldn't go back to the chip. It's strange that that's been the case. We actually had, say, one kicker, Austin Jones. He was let go after a bad week last week for the Generals, who are now on their third kicker this season. Right. So, they're going to be playing with that this week to deal with it. But overall, I mean, Aubrey's been the most consistent kicker in the league all season. Kudos to these guys. And like I said, Victor Bolden, Kevontae Turpin, if we're talking at least as return men, or at least special teams players, I mean, this section right here, I think you're going to see a lot of guys that'll get looks in the NFL this offseason just because that unit historically in these spring leagues generally gets picked really quick for specialty guys. Like Aubrey, I imagine he gets a look. There's one or two kickers in this league that will. He, I think, will get a look from some teams. And I mean, Turpin alone and Bolden, both of them, I think you can't. This all-USFL team you could consider as the NFL's scouted team as well. Right. For players. And it's a good and bad because for next year, I'm like, I want some of these guys back and I want to be guilty, but I'm also like, I'm super happy for you.
Oh, sure.
Because that just adds to your status of being looked at for this offseason. And I mean, you still got playoffs for a lot of these teams still have that to go. But for the ones that are going into that, off-season section, which we have to mention, they at least get a little bit of kudos. You got an award on there. We talk about award accomplishments on your resume. All-Pro, All-USFL team. Sounds good to me.
Oh, for sure.
I like that little nugget.
Yeah.
Take that home with you. Breakdown by the numbers, by the way. Generals come out on top. If you count the double up with at least you count double up with Turpin added in, they come out on top with 7 selections, 4 on offense, 2 defensively, and then 1 on special teams. Followed up then as we go down the order, the Breakers with 6, Stallions with 5, Gamblers end with 3, Philadelphia and Tampa Bay both have 2, and then the Maulers and Panthers end with 1 apiece. Again, all 8 teams represented. Talent is spread across the board. And I mean, again, there's guys that could have been second team that they might have done if they want. Who knows if they do that next year? We'll find out. But good to see at least 1 per team represented and should be represented in some regard.
Yeah.
So kudos to all of them. As we move on, though, as I referenced just a second ago, the all NFL scouted team, like I said, because as reported by Aaron Wilson of Pro Football Network, who first reported it, that's how I'll go with that. Players not attending the playoffs are now free to pursue the NFL, at least opportunities that are presented to them after this weekend. Credit, yes. Of course, you got to be released from your contract. If you signed on that extra clause, you can come back or you could possibly return back. But all signs point to they're going to go to the NFL. Right. I mean, there's nothing that's been said that they are, at least I can tell, that the league's going to halt people from leaving to go and pursue that.
No. I think that, realistically, that's kind of the point of these leagues is to build up these stars, get players, let them showcase their skills. It's kind of a win-win for everybody. The USFL gets players get a chance to get more film, get seen by different scouts and move up. And the well of players is never going to dry up. I mean, look at college. We talked about it before. Every year there's thousands of kids that don't move into the NFL, don't move into even the CFL. And so they'll move into places like the USFL and, even the XFL. But the amazing thing is here, we might know the first USFL signee to move to the NFL within the next couple weeks.
could.
I don't know how fast it would move, but realistically, it could happen even Monday. I don't think it's going to move that fast. But we're definitely going to see some. And then as the playoffs end, because as this list kind of becomes more free, and I mean, this list isn't just the only guys that we're going to see move up. There's going to be, I think we're going to see a good handful of guys move up. And here's the reality of the situation too. Some might move up and then maybe they don't make it. And then they would be then bound back to their USFL contract and then come back into the league. So, I mean, there's at least some job security there too. If you look at it from that perspective is, hey, now I had the shot to move up. I got up here. Maybe it wasn't the right fit. Maybe it wasn't the right team. Maybe I just didn't enjoy the practice squad or whatever the reasons might be. Now you have a place to land in the USFL, which, I mean, everybody seems to be saying season 2. Coach Fedora mentioned it in an interview the other day. Everybody is just marching ahead to season 2, and there's a couple indicators that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show here. But, that's great to see. And, the nice thing is, too, is the USFL's not making everybody wait until the end of the championship. No, right? They're saying, look, season's done for you guys. Go make it happen. Go start sending out your tapes. Go get with your agents. Go do whatever it needs to be done. And likewise, the agents now don't have to worry about having some weird contractual issues. They know the A-OK is from the league. Go at it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how many of the guys, I'm sure a lot of them have opted into the season 2 piece of their contract. I wish there was some numbers around that. Clearly, we're never going to see that. So hopefully nobody gets their hopes up there. But I'm so curious to see season 2 is, one, the guys that return, right? There's some teams that are going to have a real nice solid base to start with, depending on how many people come back. And then the injection of some of these new stars, right? It's been so long since we've gotten to a season 2 in any of these things, right? To see some of these teams build, because there's some that are right on the cusp. But I think it all comes down to which players stay, which players go. And like you said before, I can't be mad at that. And I hope nobody else is. If your favorite player from the Breakers or the Generals or even the Panthers moves on to the NFL, be happy. You know what? Go buy a jersey. They might not sell it, but go get a custom jersey and support them in any way you can. Because, I mean, that's really what I'm here for, is to watch that underdog story, not from just the players, but the league and everything around it, right?
Yeah, that's what these are designed for. And they've been, it's been preached on, whether it's United by Football with talking to coaches, whether it's, during the offseason or in interviews recently, it still is about, where the players go after this. And, year 2 has a lot of questions we'll be talking about, in terms of how it looks. And I think that the extra clause that was added on mid-season, I think that's going to be something we'll be analyzing, is how many did sign, how many will come back, how many get to camps and they stay and stick in camps. For example, with the USFL, it's a little different than how we have talked in the past, you and I, at least XFL wise. They're getting out these players now after this week. It'll be late June, mid-ish to late June, they'll be done. And first camp reports for training camp, at least for veterans in the NFL, is July 20th. Mm-hmm. With at least the earliest that all veterans are going to be reporting, or having all of them reporting, 26th mm-hmm. in July. So it gives them about a month to get out there. If teams have already been scouting out players, which, Daryl Johnson said himself, there have been NFL scouts that have come to a few games. So some people will probably get some calls, and they'll have some talks with agents that you'll see that they'll jump to the camp and get right into that. They'll be at least be conditioned to where they should be able to go right in if needed. But yeah, that's going to be something that's in play. You'll be watching out for. But that gets started after this week, after come Sunday, or after Sunday's final game here that we have on the docket. That's it, folks. We'll have 4 of these teams here: the Panthers, Maulers, the Gamblers, and the Bandits. All their players. It's time to go look around. Otherwise, you can sign on for next year. Just opt on in. So we'll find out. Or for those with the clause, you have to, of course, opt in with the clause. There's a few things going on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, a lot to consider for you people out there. Year 2 is going to be exciting to build up to. Something in the offseason we'll be getting, and I actually I'll let you do this because you're the big you're a little bit more the collectibles guy than I like my collectibles. I will say this. I do not collect as much on the trading cards, but looks like we're getting some trading cards.
Ooh, I'm excited about that too, because that's a big question that people have had in the lead up is, are we going to get trading cards? I mean, we saw the AAF have trading cards. We saw the XFL have trading cards. In fact, I think the AAF trading cards came out the week that they folded, if I recall correctly, which is just an interesting thing to think about. But no, it looks like we're getting USFL trading cards. So Darius Victor, New Jersey Generals, he shared a video on Instagram showing him just signing a sheet of autographs. Now that in itself doesn't mean much to me, right? But in there, he had a quote, "Signed cards coming soon. Make sure you get that," with a smiley face emoji. And I will make sure I get that. I'm super excited. Now, here's the thing though. I wonder if this gets brought into like NFTs too. I wonder if we start getting like digital versions of things like that. And I hope we do. I know there's a lot of people that are iffy on the NFT. I'm sorry. We're riding to the future, baby.
Well, think about, I mean, you're not wrong, because they were supposed to, at least the plan was, now they've been getting a little more involved with their fan pass. Actually, I mean, they're supposed to, I actually signed up with mine. I'm supposed to be getting a $30, I think you will too, $30 off code for those that were like early members. And then if you're going to the playoffs, by the way, like at least the 25th, like if you're going to be there in June, there's an exclusive VIP tailgate they're supposedly setting up,
and free tickets
you can access with that, and free tickets. To that's the weekend slate. So
yeah, real quick, if you are one of the NFT team token holders, so here's what you got to do. You just go to usfl.fans, usfl.fan or usfl.fans. I'm going to verify.
I think it's USFL. I'm pretty sure it's usfl.fans.
Let's just double check this real quick. Just so yes, usfl.fans. You connect your wallet, you do all the jib jab stuff that you need to do, and they'll send, I just got my email today. They'll send you an email on how to redeem your perk. So $30 off, Zach. Dude, you can get a free hat. Basically, you got to pay shipping, right? But there's a lot of items under $30 on the shop, or now that the jerseys are available, it's almost half off. So you know what? Sign me up there. Anyway, trading cards. We don't know who the manufacturer is going to be. If I were to guess, speculation zone, I would say probably Topps. I mean, again, using the previous two examples, they did the AAF trading cards. They did the XFL trading cards. So they have a history of working with startup leagues and not just the big guys, if you will, the more established companies. So I could see them jumping in onto that. And I mean, I'm a fan of Topps. Fleer maybe, but I hope it's Topps. I'm not going to lie. But if you're excited about that. Now, somebody had posted on Twitter. This is actually how I saw it. Somebody had reposted the video from Instagram, and now he said they're coming in fall. And I'll say this, I haven't found anything that's mentioned timelines. So when they're coming, I don't know, but fall, kind of fits, right? And now we're creating this year-long cycle of here's something else to look forward to. Here's something else to look forward to. And you know what? There is value to just having presence on a shelf at a store. Somebody walking down the aisle, what is this USFL? Right? And you know what? Maybe that'll draw new fans in just in itself. So it can only be a good thing. I'm looking forward to collecting them. I have the whole XFL set. I have the whole AAF set. So I definitely plan on getting the whole USFL set. And there's some key autographs that I'll be looking for. Mainly all my Generals guys. But I do want to tip my hat, my Breaker style Coach Fedora autograph in that bunch somewhere. So if you guys are listening and you're plotting this up, get Coach Fedora over there to sign a couple of those bad boys and make sure they're hidden in a couple packs that you send to the Houston metro area. Just say it.
I'll just be honest. Like I said, I haven't been as much of a card guy. I don't know. This might be the one I get in. I've seen two leagues pass by where I haven't gotten any. I'm like, you know what? This one, I mean, some of these guys might, like I said, might be around next year. So, or they'll come back, you know. So that'd be kind of nice to pick up a few and be like, hey, you know, like I said, a little bit of a collectible I get to add on as I'm, like I said, I'm once I get that $30 off coupon, I'm already like kind of calculating what I want to get myself. I haven't gotten a jersey yet. That might be we did get to see some folks are starting to get those. Did yours come in?
I did. You know what? I've been such a busy boy that I haven't taken pictures, but I'm going to post some pictures over the weekend. But yeah, maybe I'll do a fashion show that I'll add on,
Get your wife to do some glam shots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to make this a thing. So stay tuned to social media for the...
Add in the golf cart. Oh! The whole thing. There you go.
Oh, we're making this a thing. Okay, yeah. Stay tuned to social media. We're going to run down the runway because I got 3 of these bad boys. I got the Breakers, I got the Panthers, and I got the Gamblers. And I kind of feel like I'm a bad luck jersey owner because the first 2 that I bought were the Panthers and the Gamblers, and oh boy, it didn't work out too well for them. And then it feels like once I bought that Breakers jersey, their teams they weren't performing like they were early on. So I'm sorry in advance for any other teams. You know what? Just so it is, I won't buy any more jerseys until after the championship. So I will. You can't blame it on me unless the Breakers get there. Then I guess you can. And then something happens.
So there's 1 or 2 in the Discord for Breakers fans that might be like, oh, no, we knew there was something off with Kyle.
Don't ever let a Lions fan buy my merchandise. Never,
I'm just like, look, to me, it's like the Panthers. I'm like, I'm not surprised. Like, I'm a Bears fan. There's Lions fans that are Panthers fans. I just picked up basically one step, the bad luck franchise anyway.
Yeah.
So I was guess ready for it. Houston, I don't know. I mean, that was just bad luck from, just bad luck. Say you're a gambler anyway.
Yeah,
it's bad luck draws. That's all it was. This week though, got a good setup.
Good gamble. I can
tell you. Yeah, and tell you what, you finally, as we go into our recaps, you finally drawn 500.
Oh, I'm so ecstatic about that. I'm so happy about that. I know because if I play my cards right, I could end out of this over 500. Now you've at least got it to the point. Even if you get all 4 wrong this week, you'll still be above 500. I don't think I'm catching up to you unless I go full crazy wonky picks. But I mean, my pride, I have to get over 500. I have to get over 500 here. 2
games, and here's the thing that's playing into you when we get into the previews. No one has anything to win to go for this week. It is the Wild West. I don't even know how they're going to approach these games, quite frankly. So that'll be fun discussing that. Here's how we got to this point in our picks, though. Let's go through some recaps as we do for these games. So looking back at week 9, we'll turn back the clock a few days and talk about some things, including another moment I have to live. Although I thought I was going to walk away and be happy that I was wrong on my pick. I was hoping I could avoid the tank bowl, that I wouldn't have to talk about who has to fight to not be last. And possibly if we're talking draft picks next year, you would think we're talking draft order. So keep that in mind. Panthers come in. Josh Love was healthy for this one, deactivating Paxton Lynch for week 9, inactive roster. However, Eric Berrier was in the backup role. And as folks in the Panthers fandom have been talking, dude's an FCS legend coming out of college now. Won basically their version of the Heisman Trophy in essence. And here he is. He gets his chance. Love gets re-injured again, has to come out, played a solid game up to that point. And Eric comes in, settles down after a series. It looks good. And he helps the Panthers come close to pulling it off. Who else looked really good? Joe Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Best game of the year. Dude came out of nowhere. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Offensive player of the week this week because of his performance. And they were just one good stop away. Luis Perez laid a dime up to Darius Shepherd.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a perfectly placed ball for the game. What was the game-winning touchdown in the fourth quarter. Hard-fought contest. Michigan came out aggressive. They stuck with it. It's close but no cigar. That's the way you can put it. Generals definitely got a bit of a scare. They walk away with a win. Walk-off pick to seal the deal.
Ended up being the highest scoring game of the week, too. And, shame on me. I didn't know if this game was going to be a good game or a blowout. And, probably part of it had to do with New Jersey knows that they have everything kind of locked up. You don't have to go out and put everything on the line, risk injuries. So maybe that was part of it. But boy, did they edge it out, because I thought they were going to take their second loss. Panthers, again, talking about base and looking towards season 2, if they can keep a good core of those guys and build upon what they have, same goes for the Gamblers. I don't know so much about the Maulers, but looking at the lower end of the league, I feel like those teams are just so close from being like the top tier team. Like just one mistake each of these games, it goes the other way, we could be looking at completely different records for the Panthers and the Gamblers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, it's one game difference of a comeback that Michigan could have, like that first week.
Yeah.
I could have had a win over you. You've had that over me all year. Now you got 2 wins right now. And I'm like, God, I hope I can match up at least.
Thank
I don't want to
God.
I don't want to be down at 1-9 when we talk the Tank Bowl.
Yeah.
To end the season.
And I mean, go on. Sorry, go on.
It's the usual. Like it's just, I don't know. Michigan, I mean, snake bitten to maybe a half a lesser degree than Houston this season. Defensively, they played one of their better matchups recently. Secondary was a lot better this time around. It felt like they played a little bit more energy coming out there. I mean, when you're eliminated, I mean, they were eliminated the week prior. They have nothing to lose now.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to play for them except to say, look, let's put out our best effort. Get you guys some good film. Go out and get a win.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Pride is on the line, man.
Right there. One good drive, one excellently placed pass from Luis Perez, who, by the way, I mean, DeAndre Johnson was healthy for this one, but they switched back to Luis. A little bit of a question going into the playoffs for them now, because I mean, it's kind of been back and forth. They have 2 starting caliber quarterbacks, so it's like it's almost now a question. It's kind of been abandoned that they've done the 2 QB system at this point. Now it's about, all right, who do they go with?
Right.
There's no 2 QBs anymore. Now it's more of a who's going to be the one coming in. And now they got of course 2 weeks in a row with Philadelphia. So like it's kind of a cat and mouse game, just kind of deciphering what Mike Riley wants to do. I mean, he was sitting in the stands.
I love it.
Later on this week.
I love that, man. They show eating a flipping sandwich, scouting out there, kind of watching the game. But yeah, he played a little bit of coy. They interviewed him. He's like, no, I just like watching football. Sure. You're going into the playoffs. You're playing this team back to back. Yeah, you're seeing as much as you can from those stands.
He's dinner from the media room, man.
Yeah.
That's all he was doing. You know, so he gets a nice win. Now, the top 2 in the league, unfortunately, both of them couldn't walk away. And I'll tell you what, Birmingham, I feel like you've been saying all year, they're due for a knockdown game. They could use one to maybe if they want to refocus for the playoffs. And sure enough, Houston came in and they defensively imposed their will. Birmingham started off fast out of the gate. They got 7 on the board. You know, it was a pretty smooth drive for them to start. And you think, okay, Houston, you know, Kenji Bahar still ain't fully it. They aren't able to get a bit of a rhythm. But you know what happened was the Gamblers defense, you know, instead of doing a bend don't break, they just started rattling Birmingham. They said, all right, we're not going to let you run. And if Jamar can't get his rhythm going, if he's not running out of the pocket, and if we're getting in his face, we're going to make some opportunities. I mean, they 2 sacks, they got a safety, they picked them off. You know, he all day after that first few series, he was more and more, you could tell, just getting extra frustrated with how things were coming down on the field. And even when they went up ahead by 1 later on in that contest, you know, it was a prayer. You know, he was getting mugged in the backfield. Yeah. Almost was going to be a sack. He threw it up just to get the ball out of the pocket, trying to maybe throw away, maybe see if he can get it down to at least someone that could catch it. And sure enough, you know, luckily, lo and behold, you do have someone waiting for you, arms wide open. You have a DB just mistiming the play. But nonetheless,
we did
Kenji Bahar comes right back, finds Isaiah Zuber, and the rest is defensive at that point.
And, I mean, maybe not the prettiest game, maybe not the highest scoring game, but you know what? If we're going to go out near the lower end of the league, I would take, I mean, there's no better way to do it than taking away the undefeated streak for the Stallions. And honestly, like you were mentioning, this is the perfect time for them to take the loss. I mean, they get week 10 to refocus, kind of let some guys rest, but really strategize, knowing that they can lose, and not to one of the top tier teams, but a team that has notoriously struggled in the second half and hasn't found a win since the first week. And so, I mean, it's kind of a win-win, as strange as that sounds. I know some of the Stallions fans might not agree, but I think it's better for them to go in with a loss than undefeated. And, you know, honestly, I'm really actually looking forward to, and people might disagree with this take too, I'm curious what the Stallions versus Breakers Part 3 looks like, because the first two were the opposite of whatever everybody expected, like the barn burner of all barn burners offense showcase, when in reality, they were very defense-heavy games, kind of stifling each other out. And they're both, maybe again because they have their playoffs locked in. Well, the Breakers didn't until last week. But they both feel like they're stalling a little bit near the end of the season. At least on the both on the Breakers and the Stallions side, really. Again, maybe you could attribute that to, yes, they have their spot locked down. But I think the loss will help that. I mean, it gives you something to fight back from. Again, going into this last week, I could see them resting a lot of their guys, though. Realistically, now that you took the loss, now you don't have to fight for that win in week 10 to stay undefeated, right? So it kind of takes a little bit more pressure off, too, and lets you look past this week and into the playoffs because, yeah, as we'll talk about here in the next game, the Breakers, they feel like they're stalling a little bit, but I mean, compared to this week, this past week, they edged it out. It might not feel like it, but the Bandits, for whatever reason, they just could not get things going. But I'll tell you this, Zach, because of Jordan Ta'amu, I was able to edge in. You and me, do you know this? We're in the championship for fantasy. You versus me.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yes, I edged it out.
Hang on.
0.2 points in that last game.
I have to specify why I'm acting like this. Lately, I have gotten so distracted that I have had a hard time going into edit, or where I haven't really, and this is rare for me, NFL wise, I haven't really been paying attention since like week 5. So some folks in that league are like, if they're watching, like, I'm sorry, what? You beat
the guy that you beat. The only other person that's beaten him is me, is that papaya guy.
Do we need to make a wager now? Like, I feel like we have to make a wager at this point.
Yeah, we probably should. Maybe we'll figure that out off. I don't know. Well, I'll stew on that while we talk.
Okay.
Zach, so hear me out, though. So that last week fantasy, I had the same problem as you. I didn't think to tinker, and I had Reggie Corbin in my lineup.
Right.
And he was out. And so I was watching. I was looking good. And I can't remember who the guy who the guy I was playing had, but he had somebody that in the second half of the game started going off, and I'm just watching it. Like my 21-point lead edged down from one player in the final game. And it came 0.2 points, Zach, brings me to the championship against you. So I got to tinker. So I'm glad I brought this up so you have a chance to tinker as well. But yeah, we'll have to figure out a wager there.
Like I said, it feels weird for me to even say that because, like, NFL wise, if you talk to like friends of mine, I'm usually like usually like upwards of 3 to 4 leagues during the season. So like, I don't know, I think I've been so busy with, making sure with this show. And then I think just trying to make sure I could even keep track of who's rotating what, because one thing with the USFL, I mean, there's no lying here. There's open curtains. It's been crazy how much rotation there's been with who's the star every week. So like, to me, it's like maddening to go, oh my God, I got right to keep up, all right. Well, now I got to we'll decide what we're doing, my friend, because I now have to really, I'm going to play it tough. I will be doing analysis after this.
Good. I would expect nothing less.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, in week 10, I mean, it's going to be kind of a wild ride. You were referencing Tampa, like, I mean, how do you even approach this? How is it the same mistakes keep plaguing this same roster? Todd Haley has to. I don't know. Todd Haley's probably gotten angry. I know Mike Pereira mentioned on his referee on his basically his officiating show that Todd Haley went from the nice Todd Haley to he's starting to become the angry Todd Haley again. And part of it, maybe part of it's calls. Mm-hmm. Part of it's also because some of the play on the field has got to be driving him nuts. Mm-hmm. They outgained the Breakers in this. Kyle Sloter was not able to do what he wanted, and they put Zach Smith in for a minute, but he got an injury scare. Yeah, and they pulled him out to be safe. And so they said, okay, we're just going to run it. Like they played conservative football the second half, mm-hmm. and the Bandits, they had opportunities. They were moving up and down the field, but you know what plagues them? Consistent penalties.
Yep,
they are not a disciplined team. Turnovers again and again and again. Every time they play a winning roster this year, they cannot keep the ball in their own possession, and they'll find an inopportune time to turn it over. They should have had a TD in this game in the early on.
Oh yeah.
And my guy, of course, Washington fumbles it inside the 5. I'm like, no, no, you were right there. This was going to be so good. And honestly, if you're a Bandits fan, they deserve to lose. I'm sorry. Every chance. New Orleans was not on their A game defensively. No. They came to play at the right opportune moments, but Tampa Bay had every chance that they could to pull this one out. Mm-hmm. It just shows they aren't able to live up to those crunch time moments. And Jordan Ta'amu, again, we're talking reasons he isn't on the All-Pro US or on the All-USFL team. It's not all on him. Mm-hmm. Some moments, like I've said throughout the year, receivers have let him down at times.
A lot.
I'll give him that. Maybe even offensive plays once or a few times have too. But this roster cannot put together a crucial win mm-hmm. to save its life, and they get to end the year just trying to look for a positive note to land on. They get Birmingham, who maybe you do end 5-5. And I think that's the goal. Just like get to 500. Try and win against a winning roster.
Right.
So you don't have to get that mark, just play a smarter game, get some good tape for yourself at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. But man, they deserve to lose this one. I'm sorry. Yeah. Every chance they were given, and they let it just slip away at any turn.
And it's a shame too, because I was really hoping they were going to win. Even though I picked the Breakers last week, I was hoping they would win, because then week 10 is a lot more exciting, right? You have the Tank Bowl and then a playoff picture game at least. Now we just have a Tank Bowl. And as you mentioned, they have a tough feat ahead of them, but maybe not so much, but we'll get to that later. I'm sure Coach Fedor's happy. Get it sealed out, because, from his perspective, you don't want to go into week 10 having to worry about if there's going to be a week 11. You want to be able to go in there resting, getting your strategy, thinking about those things, not about a team ahead of you. And so they got it done. It wasn't pretty by any means, but they made it happen 17-6. So that's the magic number this week, 17. Other than the first game, we have 17s here for the final 3 games, which you brought up on Twitter, which is the game. Just taking a step back. Gambler's magic number there, 17. Interesting enough, we talked about it on episode 17. My favorite number, all in. So that's the goal next year. Always score 17. And always hold your opponent under 17. That's the mantra.
Well, at the end of the week, I said that, of course, it wasn't the magic number for their 2 wins. But apparently for most of the week, it was the magic number 2. Mm-hmm. 3 of the 4 games, 17 was the one that you had to hit if you wanted to walk away with a W. New Orleans, they got all theirs in the first half and just essentially defensively said, nope, no scoring. You get 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything else, it's off the table.
Right.
And then we look at Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Philadelphia locking down their playoff spot the week prior. If it had to come down to Pittsburgh, that would have been very much a unique storyline. It did not. And quite frankly, the Maulers, kind of like the Gamblers, they said, all right, we're just going to be aggressive and come out and smack you in the mouth. And they did. Case Cookus was harassed. It's been the most he's been harassed in a while. He took some brutal hits. Maybe not as brutal as Henny did, but he took some brutal.
Oh, yeah. Well, they brought him out of the game for a reason. They said, all right, let's just keep this guy safe here. We got playoffs.
KJ, you go out there. Yep. You can go. And it didn't even come down to KJ. It came down to Darnell Holland off a turnover, which, speaking of the Maulers, look, man, again, I talk like it's almost like the same. They borrowed what the Bandits did in the worst way. They're like, well, we're with the lead. Guess it's time to have a few turnovers of our own. And, I felt bad for Andre London because Kirby Wilson, I mean, I think at this point, the TV's just looking to find a quote to get people going, oh, Kirby. No, Kirby Wilson is, because again, like Kirby comes over and goes, worst time to do that, man. And he walks away and you're like, what the heck?
Right.
He already knows that.
Right.
And so like Madre's a good running back. You got hit it. You got a catch, turn around, took a few steps, enough to be considered a football move. And, bang, bang, next play, Darnell Hollins running it down for the, changing the game in one run like he has been this year since he's gotten healthy. Or not Darnell Holland, Corbin. I'm mixed up the two. Say Corbin. Pardon me, Stars fans. I mean, both of them have been good, but Corbin has really been.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dude can turn on the motor. Goes so fast, his feet start outrunning his head. Have you ever noticed that? He'll turn a corner. His head starts doing this.
Yeah.
As he's turning the corner. And that's what he did on that TD run. Pittsburgh, I don't know what to say. I think Kirby was right in the way that I think that what he preached this week translated to the field. He said, I want him to play loose. I want to play him aggressive. And they did for about 3.5 quarters. Yeah. And then the wagon fell off like it usually does. And unfortunately, Ramiz Ahmed, who, week prior hit a 61-yard field goal and is going to hold the record for the league's longest field goal, misses what could have been the game-winning one in the end and last grasp of hope. So now Pittsburgh will go into this week and play the infamous Tank Bowl.
Oh, I'm so excited about this game, Zach. I know some people are probably just not going to watch it all. If I look at all the games that's coming up this weekend, to me this is the one that matters now. Who is getting stuck with the one win, and who is joining maybe the Gamblers if they don't pull it out this week with at least a second win? I mean, pride matters a lot, Zach. I mean, especially for these guys trying to get some film, looking to get to the NFL. You want a game, and I expect to see some fun football this week. There's one thing about football games that have no consequences. You always see some fun special teams action. I mean, we saw it this past weekend. I mean, real quick to go back to the Maulers. With that game, I think it brings us up to 6 quarterbacks for Kirby Wilson, with Max Duffy passing it in, and then Ramiz Ahmed passing the ball at least once. So, I mean, he was going all out. He was faking fourth downs, faking punts, faking everything. So I expect to see a lot more of that from these teams going into week 10, and I'm all about it. Let's just have special teams circus, just football. And the first game up, I think we're going to see a lot of that, Zach, because I don't think either team is going to want to show their hand, if you will.
No. And as Mike Riley stated, as he was watching that Stars Maulers game, there's a lot. I mean, when you have to play your opponent twice in a row in a meaningless game, you want to, as he said, you want to play to win, but how much are you going to show? Because got to be honest, the Generals are, I mean, honestly, if we're talking offensive units in the league right now, the Generals and the Stars are kind of the two that are most consistent at the moment. I mean, sure, someone maybe could, I can't even argue the Breakers right now because they just, with Kyle Sloter being the way he is and with Jamar Smith, unfortunately getting frustrated the last few weeks, these are the two best offenses. So, like, how much are Andrus and Riley going to be letting their schemes out?
Right.
Hard to say. And even want to go further, who's a quarterback?
Right.
Like, I mean, because, do you want Case Cook playing in a meaningless game?
I don't think so.
I mean, because I could throw, KJ Costello, I'll throw him out there.
Here's how I think it plays out. I think we maybe get 1 quarter of Case just to keep the rhythm going, keep him in the game. You don't want somebody to lay dormant too long. But you probably, after the first quarter, you throw in KJ, right? From the General side, it's even more interesting, though, because like you mentioned, it's with their dual QB system, so to say, they're almost right. They're kind of relying on either or.
They have a third. This is where things become unique. And when I'm looking at the inactive roster, so, Kyle Lauletta's chilling there on the inactives. my thing is like, and again, I know this league kind of has had some tighter rosters. They have 50 now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, maybe you put one of them on the side, and as much as that would hurt their paycheck,
Sure.
by the way, I hate to say that, but maybe you say justifying, like, look, you can have a chance to make some more money in the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
and we get you a little more rest. Maybe like a DeAndre Johnson. We put Louise out there for like you're saying, a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kyle Letta comes out, and maybe we get him some film or something. Or maybe they don't because they have two QBs. They say, screw it, we'll just do a rotating one.
Right.
But this is fascinating. This is one of those games. It's like, how much do you really see the hand played?
Mm-hmm.
How much really is revealed? Who gets out there? This is like a true NFL. What does the end of the season game look like? Like if you're a fantasy guy, like you're like
Mm-hmm.
in the NFL, this is the game you dread if you have a league that goes all 17 weeks because you don't want to play the 17th week.
Right.
Because there's too much uncertainty.
Right.
So this one's a complete, if I was a bettor, and honestly right now, betting lines has New Jersey as the favorite with, total 41.5. I mean, I don't know. To me, I'd say it's a pick 'em because of the fact that I don't know what to expect between these two and what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because they play next week. So do you really want to throw everything out there? No.
No, not at all.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I think it's going to be a fun way to kick off the week. Like I said, it could be a very low scoring game though. So be prepared for that. But I expect a fun little chess game to be played of you know what? I could see the Kirby Wilson offense being played. Here's the same run down the middle all game, guys. Run the ball. All right, guys. Take your time setting it up. We got 20 more seconds to go. All right, run it up the middle. All right, guys. Come on, let's go. We got to kick it away. Oops,
They got backfields to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I mixed up Holland on that one when I talked about with Colburn. I mean, they even have Paul Terry back there who's had his moments. So like for the Stars, they could do it. And then general, same deal. I mean, they have guys, they've been signing running backs too, Trey Williams last week, he was the feature back, which kind of stuck out to me because recently he hadn't been, but they switched it up. They said, all right, Trey, you're the hot hand. Darius, you're going to supplement. I was like, okay, I dig it. But they have that 1-2 punch too. So I don't know. It's hard for me to pick with this one. This is one of those, like, out of the 2 games this week to me, maybe 3 that I'm like, I'm not sure who I'm picking. Honestly, 3 of the 4, I'll say. I'm not sure who I'm picking because, I'm like, they're not really meaningless. There's nothing I'm playing for to me. Maybe, and that's not like the Tank Bowl pride of it. I am going to go with the Generals on this. They're a little bit deeper in my eyes. That's the only reason why I'm doing it. But don't be shocked if the Stars pull an upset in a game where both of them are trying to hide their cards. I'm going with New Jersey just out of the sake of I got to pick a team.
Man, this is tough because I kind of want to go with you, but I think I'm going to go with the Stars. And here's my reasoning.
Okay.
This could be part of the chess game too. Yes, you go into the game wanting to win, but there's nothing more psychological than letting a team win the week before you play them for something, right? Not to say that the Generals are going to let them win, but maybe they're a little bit softer on defense when they're in the red zone. Just a little bit, just enough. You got in. Oh, look, I guess our defense is softer than you thought, guys, because we're really trying to play over here too. So you know what? I'm going to take the Stars. One, I might regret it because I do want to hit this 500. I want to hit the 500, but like you said, this really is a coin toss game. And maybe this will help me edge it in a little bit closer to your record here. Saturday at noon, by the way, USA. So we're only getting one broadcast game this week. And I see why. There's not much on the line here. But the next game up, we get the showcase game on Fox, 4 p.m. Saturday as well. Stallions, Bandits. Now, I mean, last week, the
Could have
Bandits...
been a showcase if things had gone different last week.
Oh, sure. Yeah, this could have been the game to watch this week. But, I mean, both of them, if you really want to look at both of these teams and they're playing the last couple weeks, maybe not their best moments. And then again, the Stallions are going into the playoffs. Sure, I see them playing Jamar, maybe for the first quarter, similar. maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less. I don't know who they have to fall back on, though. Do they have a third quarterback?
They have Montel Cozart.
That's right.
As their second. I mean, Magoo's probably you aren't going to see Magoo. You might see him for the playoffs. I'm banking on Cozart's your guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of with you though, where I'm like, I think if they really want to play it safe, I don't know how much they will though, because I mean, they ended last week on a clunker. Mm-hmm. So I imagine Skip Holtz, you could tell he's one of those coaches that expects the best out of his guys, mm-hmm. and has been trying to get his program to work on a more fluid functionality. I almost feel like that he puts Jamar out there as long as he has to say, look, we need to have you gotta get some confidence, man. This is a weekly. You got to slow down and think through it, get a little bit more repetition in there. I mean, Cozart, I think, could see some action depending on how the game flow goes, mm-hmm. But credit, like you're talking, Tampa Bay, talk about ugly. I mean, Todd Haley, I mean, you got to be, if you're this unit, you're like, look, our season's over. We really have nothing to lose, mm-hmm. but we got to end on a good win. I'm not, like, if I was the Bandits, if I was that roster right now, I'd be like, it'll be unacceptable if we don't walk out there and finish the year at least 500.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We got to bring our all this last week. And especially not just that for film. So they're going to play all their starters. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, Birmingham doesn't have to do anything. But after last week, like you're talking, do you really want to walk away with 2 wins and have to psych yourself up to go play New Orleans for a third time?
Right.
I don't know if you do that.
Right. Right.
It's hard for me to say you don't at least try for a half. Mm-hmm.
This could be the barn burner of the week, though. Straight up, this could be it. Just because. Like you mentioned, the Stallions, they're not going to let off, and they're pretty deep too when it comes to like a full team, right? There's plenty of guys they can rely on.
Yeah, they just need to they just have been needing to get healthier now. Right. Finally, Marlon Williams, Victor Bolden, they're both fine. They're both healthy and active, and that's when their offense runs best. Mm-hmm. When those two are in, and I think they needed to recently. I know Bo Scarborough is their headline guy. But they've gotten away from C.J. Marable. Right. They need to start diversifying that backfield a little more. Marable was a pretty impactful running back when he was the head guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, they brought Bo in because they needed depth. Now, I think you got to start mixing it up a little more. People are keying in on Bo Scarborough because he really is more of a running back. Mm-hmm. He's not much of the pass catcher. He sometimes does, but
right.
I want to see if Skip notices that this week after what Houston did, mm-hmm. and goes, all right, maybe we do need to start kind of putting Marable in, who can do it all, and kind of trying to divvy it up,
Right on.
That's another thing you can do. It's experimentation too with Tampa Bay, mm-hmm. Or just some confidence, some positivity going in. I think is what you want to look at with this week, or at least positive finish.
Well, and I mean, it's a pride game, right? You want to end with, you get a little bit of pride. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's no better way to do it. Ask the Gamblers and all the Gamblers fans than taking out the Stallions, which is crazy to think because, I mean, now the Stallions and the Generals, same record going into the playoffs. I mean, they might have the same record going into after this weekend, but maybe all of a sudden the Stallions aren't the number 1 team in the league, edged out at the last week. So there's a couple things to look forward to here. As far as who I'm picking to really, at the end of the day, who's going to win, I think it's hard not to pick the Stallions here. I know that the Bandits are going to go all out. They're going to try everything they can. But I don't know. After last week, it's just hard to see a situation where they're going to beat the Stallions. Anything can happen, though, in the final week of a regular season. But that's my pick. I mean, again, I want to get over this 500, so I got to be smart here. Mm-hmm.
Tampa has the tools. The question has been throughout the year, can you get out of your own way? And can you deliver in crunch time? Where are the performances that prove that you can execute when the moment is at its most mm-hmm. dire? That's what's going to be left on the table. Tampa Bay couldn't do it all year. They have not won and defeated, as we've said, in a single winning above 500 opponent all season. Yeah. All 4 of their wins have been to the bottom barrel of the league. Can they get it done, end the season on a high note? We're going to find out this week. They just got to get some mistakes. If they limit the mistakes, they have a shot. Birmingham has shown that it can be beatable if you just, play ball, and if you're able to get into at least Jamar's face mm-hmm. or whoever's back there and limit the running game. I think Birmingham walks away with this, though. Honestly, that was the roughest game for the Stallions all year. They have a lot of they have so much talent across the board. They just need to settle down a little bit. And Jamar Smith, when he's hot, he's hot. You just got to learn how to sustain that streak. This could be that game, possibly. We'll see how the flow goes. But no matter what, give me Birmingham here. I got to take it. As much as I want to say otherwise for Tampa's sake, I can't see it. I can't see it. Sunday. USA characters welcome, by the way. Michigan takes on the Pittsburgh Maulers, round 2 of the Tank Bowl. I was ready. I've been gearing up to say that all week in that voice because it doesn't deserve any part of that, but I want to do it anyway because it's the game of all games, the pride game. Someone's going to go home the biggest loser. And it might be my team. And I'm sad to even say that it could be that possibility. Here's the deal. Michigan, for the most part, compared to Pittsburgh, they've been in most, if not all, their football. They've been pretty much in every game they've been in, except I would say recent games against, of course, the Stallions and the Stars. They could be a winning record team if they had limited mistakes all year. They're Tampa Bay if they took it an extra step further as well. It's just been that type of season for Jeff Fisher's squad. As for Kirby Wilson, I mean, talk about the man if you want, talk about the roster if you want, or the game plan. Honestly, it's like a combination of both coaching and just they can't execute. I mean, I think somebody even argue it's really just Kirby, but I do see it's
there's just some missing pieces all around.
But there's reason. This is definitely, there's no doubt in my mind, these two deserve to be here, and there can only be one that walks out victorious. And they're going to give their all. This is going to be a pretty aggressive game. You don't want to go home 1-9. You don't want to end the season being the lowly 1-win team in the United States Football League. I got my Panthers, though. They're gonna bring out the broom and say, "Hey, at least we got the Maulers under our belt." Look, Eric Barrier, I was really impressed with him last week. Joe Walker, I think, that if they can keep that connection going, the USFL, it's been like one week wonders, week in and week out. Kind of like, it's funny, kind of like the OG's 80s moniker. If you think of music, one hit wonders everywhere. But I almost want to. I kind of want to see if that's the case. If we can see Joe Walker continue to get some more repertoire, leaning into Michael Scott. Can you get some running lanes? Pittsburgh has been aggressive. I think pressure from them is going to really determine how much they can swing things. If you look at their last contest they played against Michigan, different team by the way, but they were able. They did all they could to slow things down. It really just came down to Michigan had a little bit better of an offensive unit at the time with Patterson, and then a bit of Pax Lynch before he went out with an ankle injury. I don't know, like Eric Barrier, if it's him, if it's Josh Love for some reason, if it's Pax Lynch for some reason, I think they just walk away with whoever's behind there.
Yeah. Now, I did notice something interesting, and I don't know how I haven't noticed this yet, but just looking at it in our notes, it is interesting that the two teams sitting at 1-8 have M&P in their initials. So we got Michigan Panthers, Pittsburgh Maulers. I don't know. I find these weird little things in life and I equate it. I don't know what that means. But at the end of the week, like you mentioned, Zach, only one team. There is another option, Zach. It's a very far-fetched option. Tie game, 0-0, or tied at the end of because they're just going to go into sudden death after 5 rounds. But tell me this, Zach. At the end of 20 rounds of overtime shootout and it's tied, I'm telling you, they're calling the game. I wish that was more reasonable to call, but please make it happen, somebody, because that would be the funniest way to go. 1-8-1 on the season in a league that shouldn't even have ties. But if I really got to pick one, and you do. There's one team that I think stands out, and it's your Panthers, Zach. So I hope you get to join the 2-win club, and I hope we get to move out into the 3-win club. But we'll get to that here in a minute.
But you see, it won't matter because you'll have the win over me.
Yes.
I'll still always be a step below. Always be a step below.
Well, you're going to get me on the picks, it looks like. So at least you got that going for you. But yeah, the Panthers all the way. And I look to see it because remember at the beginning of the season, I feel like going back to my Michigan or my Detroit Lions curse, if you look at the two teams that I was noodling over at the beginning of the season, It was the Panthers. It was the Gamblers. And then even to take it a step further, I was willing and able to put that Maulers jersey near a number 1 spot in the ranking, got shoved down. So I'm sorry for fans of all of those teams. I may have had an impact there.
Shun you. That's what you're saying. Shun.
But yeah, I'm going Panthers this week. Ended out with a win. And I mean, season 2 could look pretty good for them.
Well, I'm wondering, I think some of, like, for the lower level teams that they've had a lot of turnover, like Eric Berrier was at least under the under the clause contract section. He was signed during that period, from what I can tell. So, hey, I don't know. I mean, if he comes back, I'd be fine with that. Like, if we see the same next week, like, if he opts back in, dude, I'll be thrilled. Like that'd be like, hey, that position's solidified to me. So I want to see what he's got in a full game setting, get a whole week of preparation. The team's preparing for him to be the starter. I think, because I'm projecting he will. Maybe Josh Love, like I said, if he's healthy, I don't know. But I don't know. Last week he showed a lot where I'm like, hey, maybe you throw him in, you get him some playing time. We'll see. I mean, Paxton Lynch was inactive, so we'll have to check the inactives list because that always seems to come out after we talk. So, we'll get to hear about that. But the Tank Bowl, baby, it's going to the Panthers. They're getting that broom. I think we're seeing the broom come out. And finally, Houston Gamblers are hosting the New Orleans Breakers on FS1, the 8:30 game to cap off a 10-week regular season that'll come to a conclusion. New Orleans is one I'm watching this week to really, I'm going bold, and I know this is before they say who's inactive, but I'm going to gamble, no pun intended, with how the opponent is. I think Shea Patterson gets in this week. He hasn't been let go. He is, higher profile pickup for them. The Breakers are in. They have 2 QBs that are banged up. One that is their starter that really could use a week off before they get into a physical third matchup with Birmingham. I think there's a possibility that Shea Patterson hits the field in week 10. I wouldn't put it past you to do that, especially with 2 of your QBs getting injuries last week. And I would wager that, I think what you do, hard for me to say which, but I think if I were to be safe, again, paycheck or not, I think you deactivate Kyle Sloter for the week. You have Zach Smith as the backup, or maybe the starter, one of the two, and then Shea is the backup. Maybe you interchange them. I think Shea hits the field at some point in this game. I don't think Sloter is activated. I hope he's not. If he is, he should be the backup. I really don't think he should be starting him. And then for Houston, again, pride game. See if you can get a third win. Why not? See if Kenji Bahar gets a little more comfortable. Last week he showed some flashes. Looked a little more comfortable against Birmingham. Had one or two nice drives to help get encapsulate a win. Find out. This one's kind of up in the air for me. It's the second in the week where I'm like, I kind of toss it up because there's nothing really here to play for. And I think New Orleans is looking at their roster and we need to get healthy on the offensive side of the ball. Otherwise, Birmingham, they're going to come at us. Those 2 matchups, defensive coordinators on the opposite sides have been hell-bent to make Jamar Smith and Kyle Sloter uncomfortable as hell. And Sloter needs to have some mobility if they're going to beat Birmingham on June 25th. So that's my prediction. I don't know you're saying, it sounds like you're thinking the same way.
I'm gambling here too. I'm going the Gamblers. The defense alone, I think, puts it over the
okay.
Okay. I
hadn't made my pick. I'm going New Orleans, so we're going to split this.
Well, this will be an interesting week here. I think you're still going to come out on top as far as the number of picks, but God hope I get 500 here. Here's why I'm picking the Gamblers here. One, to your point, I think you're right on the quarterback. At least I hope you're right, Zach. They need to let Sloter nurse those injuries before going. We saw how the last 2 games against the Stallions went. You need to go in there a game. You don't want to take any chances. And I'll tell you, the Gamblers' defense is mean. They're going to get you. So there's not even a chance. You don't even want to let your quarterback go in there and get demoralized even with the picks.
Right. Sure, you can run what you did last week against Tampa and do a run heavy offense where you have Jones and Ellis taking the ball. You do quick passes, but why take that risk? He's been banged up all year. You know, when he gets a little bit, if he can get it just a little healthier, if that groin isn't as aggravated and it's not as stiff, he's a little bit mobile, that's an extra bit of threat. I mean, they want to try and run the table. That's your best shot. I really think that's your best strategy. Mm-hmm. Who knows though? Maybe, but I see why you pick. I mean, Houston, like I said, it all depends on the game plan too. Well, but I'm telling you, man, just for the sake of the playoffs, and for players too, if you want to have your best chance to get that $10,000 bonus at the end of the year, I'd say take one for the team for a week.
Right on. Exactly right. And I think, we saw the Breakers, they were soft last week. Especially if they rest some of those guys going into week 10, like you mentioned with the Panthers and the Maulers, and they're not resting any guys. None of those teams, the Gamblers aren't going to be resting anybody because there's no need to. Mm-hmm. You want that pride win. And again, it would be nice. You end off the season back-to-back wins. You start it off, you cap it off with a win, and you beat two playoff teams basically to kind of wrap up your season. I'm thinking the Gamblers pull it out. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think the Gamblers are going to run shop on them and just blow them out. I think they're going to have to earn that win. I don't think they need to worry about their defense, but they definitely need to worry about getting things moving on the offense, because I think one thing that we've seen time and time again this season is that Houston defense will gift the offense great field position, and then they still can't capitalize. Right. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to that. I think it really just comes down to whose defense is the strongest in this one, and then whose offense can get the ball moving enough. Right. Just get some points on the board.
Exactly. I mean, week 10 is going to be wild in the sake of that. It is like an NFL end of the season, regular season play week. There's a lot of just stuff that's it's settled. All the important things are settled. Now it's, how do you strategize to get to the playoffs, but also you don't want to go out on a loss, and especially for the teams that aren't qualified, we'll go out for a win. Something else I want to pass, and you will feel the same sympathy, of course, to this. I really hope that there are no major injuries or very minimum. And I stress this especially for the teams that are ending their year, with all their rosters being released to go and seek opportunities for the NFL, at least for camps. I hope to God that, the league does do its best to, at least keep them in their finest shape this week, and also to minimize what could be an injury prone week. Something else to keep in mind too, it's a scorcher this week in Birmingham. It's mid to high 90s this week with some humidity. I'm assuming this is what they're doing there, but liquids better be readily available at all times. Potassium tablets or bananas better be ready for these guys. It's going to feel like hell down there. That is going to be swampy. From people I've talked to, it's already feeling like that. So Saturday and Sunday, the league, I wish you guys the best. They're playing at Legion, which it's going to heat up there with the turf. But those two things I'm watching out for as well. Like I said, with 4 teams getting their rosters released, I really want these guys to go have an opportunity. I would hate to see it where you have a sprain, a strain, a rupture of some kind that ruins that chance and has them go right into a rehab, because that'll be such a kick in the ass. Pardon my language, but it'll be such a kick in the ass for a player to have to go through that whole season and then lose that opportunity after getting so much film. So we can't stress that enough. We hope that it is a calm week on that front. Only cramps at the max with just the heat and the issues with dehydration. Fans too, by the way, watch your hydration in the stands, man. Legion can heat up. Those are metal benches. Beer is not hydration. Water is. Just saying. It's real, man. You got it. Yeah,
it's going to be a hot one. It's funny. I haven't looked at what the weather is like in Canton, Ohio, but maybe we'll do some updates on our episode 25.
We're going to need to do that soon.
But fun week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we're capping it off a little bit late on Sunday, 8:30 game. But you know what? Then we ride into the playoffs. It's kind of crazy. I've said this a couple times that we're here.
I know. Well, every week it gets closer. It just feels weird to say. Even with the All-Pro thing, it's you don't think about it until it actually happens, because we haven't done something like that. And now we're going to be talking about playoffs for real.
I can't wait.
There's There's nothing pointing to this stopping all of a sudden. This is going to happen. Larry Fedora is talking about a year two. People are talking about year two. This is happening, folks.
Ron Paul, it's
not
happening.
A dream. It's reality.
Baby. I'm loving it. And you know what's crazy too, because we got the All-USFL team, but you know we're going to be getting MVPs and things like that after the season ends.
Offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, special teams. Yeah, the MVP overall, you know.
Oh,
man.
So much to look forward to. Like I said, yeah, the season's ending, but there's going to be plenty of stuff to be talking about in the offseason. And I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be the first time in the whole time I've been covering alternative football that I've been able to talk about a postseason. I guess other than the spring league, but I'm talking more on the professional level, right?
No, I mean, we're talking legitimate on TV, getting promoted hard type of league here, you know. I mean, the spring league, you know, it made it through. Kudos to them, but it was designed that way. This one is, of course, too for some aspects, but like, it's more legit. It's more legitimate. You know, it feels good. That feels really good. It's great to say that. And we're going to talk about playoffs this weekend. You know, get to talk about during some of the games, and we'll get to talk about playoffs coming up. So
sign us
fun.
up.
It's real fun. Well, folks, that's about going to do it. Again, as we stress here, be sure to follow us on social media at USFL Podcast. We'll be covering on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe on this YouTube channel, and especially if you want to catch up on the live stream we're going to be doing over the weekend with some of the games going on, or at least after some of them, you know, you'll want to stay tuned with that. We'll be doing essentially what is our show for that week leading up, because we got to get ready for a few things ourselves after or coming up here. So keep that in mind. Sorry, I'm saying that for the playoffs. My bad. I'm messing that up. Keep in mind for the playoffs, not this week.
We're getting there.
If I misled you, I did.
25th
of June.
episode 25.
Next week. This week, we're going to chill and watch the game. We're having a good time at our house. I'm maybe going to go to a barbecue at my dad's place, so it'll be good. It's going to be good. But yeah, follow us on social, subscribe on our channel, click the bell, builds morale, by the way. You know, and also if you follow us along, you know, check up on Summer Stock again. So nice for doing it twice, July 2nd and 3rd. 2nd, tour in the Hall of Fame. 3rd, live stream, going to the game. It's all going to be fun, all the same.
I like it.
Rhyme. I'm like, I'm
You've
in
been
a
hanging
mood
around
today.
with me too much now.
I'm getting down the marketing terms and just getting you in your earworm of yours. Getting into people's brains with that. So check out Summer Stock, guys. It's only 2 weeks away. Crazy to think about that. Or at least 2-ish weeks away. It's 2-ish weeks. Still nuts. It's nuts. Anyhow, check that out. And again, Jeff Wake, W-A-C-K is your last name spelled. You've won those 2 tickets. If you didn't hear at the beginning and you tuned in, maybe in the preview here, and you're watching at the end, you have 2 championship tickets waiting for you. Hit us up. You can comment on YouTube here, send us a direct message on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We will get those to you. You have 2 weeks to get that. So we made sure to get that announced before week 10. So feel free, hit us up. Those tickets are yours, my friend. Congrats. You're going to Canton, Ohio, and maybe we meet up with you there too. Who knows? That's all I can say. Guys, that's about it. Thanks for tuning in throughout the season. We still have a little more to go, but man, you guys have been awesome. We can't thank you enough. Until next time, until next week, we'll catch you on the other side. Stay tuned. Enjoy week 10, everybody.